Once again, this is Left Side of the Brain coming right back with more important news, more important information, more relevant information. I was walking around trying to decide where I would start recording, and then I was like, what better place than McDonald's? So I'm crossing the street right now, and I'm gonna do this video inside of McDonald's. And don't get no more organic portal machine than McDonald's. So today's video is brought to you by a special sponsor, McDonald's. McDonald's is sponsoring us today. And today we're going to talk about a topic that many people have been asking me about, even from the old channel. And it's a topic that I stayed away from for various reasons, but the main reason I stayed away from the topic was I didn't want to get put into a corner. You see, YouTube is like a pool table, and every channel has its corner. They have their special topics that they speak about, and I didn't want to be known as the man who speaks about black and white issues. You know, I don't care about that kind of stuff. I didn't want to be the Black Lives Matter guy or the White Lives Matter guy. I don't want to be any of that nutshell topics. You know what I'm saying? It's enough people with all of that, you know, type of information. I could care less about that type of stuff, because what I'm dealing with is the true information, the organic portal information. It covers everything. You know, it covers dating, the organic portal system, marriage, school, religion. And with that in mind, that was tonight's topic. We're going to be talking about politics, religion, Illuminati, Masonry. Let me sit down. I'm in McDonald's, by the way. So, you know, people gonna think I'm crazy in here. I mean, I'm in the corner, so, you know, people gonna be looking, what is this crazy? You know how you go to McDonald's and there's always some panhandler in there, but I don't care. That's the perfect disguise for me anyway. I want to be viewed as that, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to fit in with them. I'm just here. Little do they know, I'm about to drop some bombs. They think I'm a bomb. I'm really about to drop some bombs on them in this video. Now let's get into it. And before I start, I would like to say I was thinking today about what time I would do this video. Appreciate all the comments from the last video. And I was thinking that before this summer is over, and hopefully by the end of June, this is just a channel update portion right now. Hopefully by the end of June, I can get the subscriptions back up to at least 500 or 800. Okay. My goal, well, the minimum that I'm requiring before I start live streams is 500, at least 500 subscribers. And the reason I say that is because I need to make it worthwhile. Last time we were up to 5,000 plus subscribers, and when I did the last live stream, it was like 300 people in the room. So those are the type of numbers I'm trying to pull, because I'm trying to take this thing bigger than just, you know, at a minimal level. I'm trying to get this type of message really out there so it can compete with the other bigger channels on YouTube. Also, I see in some of the videos that they have 500 views. Some of them have 400, 300. And I'm saying to myself, the views should reflect the amount of subscribers. So don't just watch this video if you haven't subscribed. Go ahead and subscribe. Like, it's us versus them. I can't do this by myself. Like, we got to work together. Encourage other people to come to the channel. If you have a YouTube channel, message people, inbox them, tell them Hey, have you heard about left side of the brain? He's talking about interesting things. I need everybody to cooperate. And before I start tonight, I would like to appreciate all of the faithful subscribers. I read your comments. I'm not always able to get to the comments like, immediately, but during the day when I have time, I do, check the inbox and I read. So just know I'm seeing everything. I see all your questions and I'm going to address all the questions as the channel goes on. Okay, let's get into it. Tonight we're going to talk about religion. Okay, we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about Illuminati. We're going to talk about Masonry. We're going to talk about all of these things. Okay, I'm even going to touch on organic portals. What is the real meaning of an organic portal? I'm going to touch on all of this tonight. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm just going to let up when the spirit lets up. Let's get right into it. Now, first of all, religion, just like any other school of thought, it's an organized, codified system. Meaning, it takes more than one person in order to have a religion. So what that should tell you is religions mean absolutely nothing without a society. All religions falls under this umbrella. In order for there to be religious books, you got to have somebody to read them. In order for there to be religious rites and customs and certain rites in the religion, like for instance, in Christianity, they pay tithes and offering. In Islam, they give to the charity. In order for you to have a religion, we got to set some things straight. You got to have people. You got to have followers in order for the religion to operate. That's number one. Do everybody agree with that? Okay. Now, all religions come with these things. They come with a book, and they come with the central figure of the religion. So whether that's Buddhism, that's the central figure will be Buddha. If it's Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, all of those are like Western Judaic religions. They all have a center figure, which is a chief god and a chief character. Like for instance, in the Jewish, Christian / Catholic religions, the chief god is Yahweh. The central figure would be Jesus Christ, also known as Yahshua. In Islam, the central figure, the chief god would be Allah, and the central figure would be the Prophet Muhammad. So we got that. Now all of these religions, it's an organized system. And I'm gonna just say it before I go any further. All religions are designed to keep people from the ultimate truth. I know I might get some I forget the word I was about to say, but I know I might get some negative feedback from that. But all religions, their ultimate purpose is to keep people in a uniform way of thinking. Is to keep you from finding you. Is to keep you searching for something outside of you. Man, this video can go so many ways, but I'm gonna try my best to stay on topic. It can keep its purpose is to keep you from finding you. Okay? Now, all of these religions, they are controlled by the governments where these religions are established. Do we agree upon that? Okay? The Vatican controls Catholicism. The Jewish religion is controlled by the Israeli, the government, the Christianity. At one time, it was controlled by the Church of England. Okay, until they had the Protestant Reformation and the church broke into different parts. Man, this video can go in so many directions. I'm trying to just keep it in on the rail of what we be speaking about. Now, long story short, all of these religions, they are designed for the purpose of organizing people. Okay? At one time, England, for instance, had what you would call a theocracy, which means the king, the queen, they sat on the throne in the place of God. So with the religion, it was more like a kind of like the Wizard of Oz movie. I am controlling you through God telling me, but you don't see God that's telling me this, but yet I'm still controlling you. Kind of like the movie The Wizard of Oz, and you know, the wizard was talking behind the curtain until he was exposed. That's how it is with religions, okay? Now, I would like to say I'm not knocking anybody's religion. I'm just, you know, giving you a preface of what it's about before we really get deep. Now, like in Islam, it's a religion, but also a political system. The political system of Islam is called Sharia. Sharia is the political system of Islam. Okay? Now, when you get to the nuts and bolts of it, religions are defended by governments. Now, even though the United States say that it has separation from church and state, when you really think about it, the Christian values in America, they line up with Christianity. But yet, when you look in the Bible, there are verses in the Bible that says, like, God ordains all power, and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. See, it's a history behind that. And the history is, during the time of the Roman captivity of Judea and that area, they were looking for a Messiah. Okay? A Messiah is one who would bring the message of revolution to free the Jewish people. Now, some say that they place in the Bible verses like render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God, and even passages like turn the other cheek, and even a verse when Jesus was in the garden and the Roman centurion came and Peter drew his sword, and Jesus told him that he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Now, some may say that people included these pacifist verses in there to keep the religious followers non-violent, kind of like the Martin Luther King movement. Now, some say when he was preaching non-violence, he was okay, but as soon as he started speaking about the war in Vietnam, that's when they killed him. And just like Malcolm X, when he was with the Nation of Islam, and when he went over to Mecca, he started seeing differences in what he was being taught in the Nation of Islam versus what the Orthodox Islam was doing. He saw like people of different races taking Hajj together. So when he came back, he was kind of confused. So my point is, religion in a nutshell is about pacifying people, making them nonviolent, and making them subservient to the governments which they serve under. For instance, I gave the example about Sharia. I gave the example about the scriptures in the Bible. So the point of these religions is to keep the masses of people basically in fear, okay? Because with the God concept comes fear. You gotta think about it like this. If they told you about a God that didn't have the power to put you in hell, how many people would honestly even follow a religion? If they was told about a God that didn't give you eternal life after you died, how many people would actually follow a religion? Okay. Now, this video is not to denounce that God does not exist. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the organized religion. Now, none of us saw who wrote these religious books. Personally, I believe that these religious books have truth inside of them. And it's something that I say on this channel. I say, truth is something that cannot be hidden. It's a law, a principle of the universe that says you cannot hide the truth from people. You can put it in fine print so they won't read it. You can mix lies within the truth, but you cannot get rid of the truth. So that's why I do not toss out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to religion, because even when you look at the character of Yahshua, Jesus, in the Bible, when you study what he did, he was basically in line with the things that I speak about. It's one particular passage where he had healed a man who had the palsy on the Sabbath day, and the Pharisees spoke out against him, like, why do you do this on the Sabbath day? And he gave him his reasons, and he told him, do you remember when there was a famine and something about some of the men with David ate the showbread that was in the what's the Jewish thing called, the synagogue, in the temple or whatever. And he was like, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And he was like, the Lord made the Sabbath day. So basically he was saying that he is over all traditions. So when you study the life of Jesus, you'll realize that he was basically going against all of the traditions of the Jews and the Pharisees. And basically he was a model of basically organic portals, telling you about it. You know, he even spoke about children of the serpent. When you think about the serpent, that's a reptilian. So when you look at these biblical accounts, you have to look at it with like a Gnostic almost. If you don't know about Gnostics or the Essenes, that was a secret sect of the Jewish religion. And one of the things that they believed in was not having children. And that brings me up to another point. Notice Jesus didn't have kids. What do I tell y'all about having children? Jesus didn't have no kids. You see, once you get this knowledge, and the Gnostics, they taught that as well, about not having children. Once you get, that was one of the secret teachings. Okay? But these religions, when followed blindly, see, everybody is not going to wake up like some of you have woken up, and like myself. You see, I was just born with this. I don't even consider myself somebody who woke up. I consider myself a flower that bloomed. You know what I'm saying? Because I started just seeing stuff, and as soon as I heard information, it clicked with me. I was never one of them hard-headed, concrete head peoples that you got to keep explaining stuff to. You know, when you find yourself having to explain something to a person, that's an organic portal, because this type of information should just click automatically. You shouldn't be wasting a lot of time, getting headaches. See, if you ever talking to somebody and you find yourself getting a headache, that's because everything you saying is ricocheting off of them, because they got a closed mind and it's not going inside of their head. And all that energy you sending to them is just deflecting and coming right back to you, and you end up with a headache. That's why I tell y'all, do not waste your time. And even the Bible say, if you go to a town and they don't accept the message, you're supposed to take your sandals off and dust your feet and keep it moving. Time out. Excuse me. Now all of these religions, right? You got to understand that at the top of all of this, it's a pyramid structure. It's a pyramid structure. And I don't want to go too deep in this because it's other people who have already spoken on this. I'm just giving my perspective. Now, at the top of all of this, it's an agreement with the heads of each religion. There is a agreement how things are going to be done, how things are going to be operated. As we presently stand in 2018, all religions on this planet is controlled by the Catholic Church. Now, it's a spiderweb link between the Catholic Church, the Jews, and the United States. And believe it or not, even Islam. They all are part of the same religious matrix. Now, it appears like they are enemies, but they are not. Behind the closets, they shaking hands, they laughing, kissing each other, and partying, watching the news reports, and laughing at the massacres on the news because they know that they perpetrated the whole thing, right? As a matter of fact, it was a comic. Actually, it was this Christian comic book company. Back in the days, they used to have something called tracts, gospel tracts, where they would like pass, tracts out to people to lead them to Christ. And it was this one particular comic called The Prophet. You can look it up. It's called The Prophet by Chick Publications. And in this comic, it gave some very good information, which I researched and found out to be true. The Catholic Church started the religion of Islam. Muhammad was a puppet for the Catholic Church. And he was used because at that time, the Arabs were not a part of a monotheistic religion. They was just Bedouins in the desert and following like pagan religions, worshiping idols. They were basically just living barbaric, and the Catholics, they saw this as an opportunity. They saw all of these people, nomadic people in the desert, and they decided to create a religion for them. And they used Muhammad to, initially his purpose was to take back Jerusalem from the Christians and the Jews who had broke away, who were doing their own thing. Because at this time, you gotta understand, the Roman Catholic Church was occupying Judea and Galilee and all of those areas. So they didn't have full control. So initially, Muhammad was used to wage war and to take Jerusalem. Okay, man, this video can go so many directions. Like, I don't want this to go too long. Anyway, that was the initial purpose, right? And to make a long story short, he turned against them, started doing his own thing, gained enough power, started claiming to have revelations, wrote his own book, and eventually, after his death, you had the Islamic conquest, as it's called, where they invaded North Africa, took over Spain, took over India, took over Afghanistan. At one time, in Afghanistan, they were Buddhist at one time. Today, they are Muslims. So he took over that area. He took over Iran, Iraq, all of those areas during those Muslim conquests. Now, the Crusades was a retaliation to the Islamic invasions. When you hear about the Crusades, the Knight Templars, and in 1492, and it's ironic that in 1492, that's the same year that Columbus traveled over here to the United States and discovered, well, not discovered, but ran into the West Indies, where he discovered people already living over here. He brought them the Bible after, this was in 1492, after the Moors, as they are called in history, were kicked out of what they had named Andalusia, but really, you know, what we know as Spain. So it's just ironic that the same crusaders who kicked the Muslims out, they basically did a jihad on the Native Americans. They brought disease over here to North America. They brought the smallpox, and they used religion to validate them enslaving Africans. Because, you know, before the Europeans were in the slave trade, the Muslims were in the slave trade. And it was the Muslims who were doing the slave deals. They were the ones who were selling the slaves and mitigating between like the African chiefs. So it's like, it's a big mess, man. It's like, it's a lot of history involved in this. But anyway, fast forward to the present day and time. Like today, religion has not changed. The only thing is that in the West, see, once a group of people take over another people, once they kill the first 2 and 3 generations, we tend to forget our history of how things came about, how this world got to this state that it's in. We tend to forget. Okay, right now America gives us democracy, but after the fact that, you know, all of the atrocities and genocide that took place. Okay, now America nevertheless has freedom of speech. In like the Muslim world, for instance, they don't have freedom of speech. Then you have communism. Now, my whole point is, the point I'm trying to get at, all of these religions are no different than political systems. Okay, you got China, for instance. China is not per se Christianity, it's not per se Islam, but still is communism. They still have laws that they abide by. Okay? So in a nutshell, religion, what I'm trying to say, is no different than the organic portal system itself. It's just another tool by way of controlling people. You see, it's just another method that they use. I can say God, in God we trust. And when I say God, you'll be thinking of meaning some benevolent man floating up in the sky. But when I say God as a person in the Illuminati, I'm meaning it in another reference. Or like I can write something in a religious book. You may be reading it one way, but to the men in the inner circle, we're reading those stories in another form. You see, we're reading those stories as metaphors. Needless to say, all of these religious books are astrological. They have astrological astrological meanings behind it. That's why they use the number 12 so much, because it lines up with the 12 signs of the zodiac. That's why on the Islamic flags, you'll have the crescent moon and the star. And what's funny is, like, for instance, you have the United States and Saudi Arabia, and you'll have this campaign on terrorism, so-called, but the American leaders will be over there shaking hands with our said enemies, so-called. And they'll have the people on that side of the world hating the people on this side of the world. But the leaders of the countries, are they together? Another interesting point I want to bring up, and keep this in mind. A good way to determine who is on whose side, you have to look at symbolism and colors. You know how gangs have certain colors and flags that they fly? It's the same with nations. Okay, America's flag is red, white, and blue. England's flag is red, white, and blue. Australia's flag is red, white, and blue. France's flag is red, white, and blue. You get what I'm saying? So it's like gang colors. Okay, when Russia had that, and even now Russia has a red, white, and blue flag. Okay, before they were communists, they had the red and yellow, just like China still have the red and yellow flag. And the leaders of these countries, they leading us from different galaxies anyway, because that's why they have the stars on the flag. The hidden meaning behind the stars on the flag is not, it don't represent the 50 states of the United States. The star on the Chinese flag doesn't represent what they are telling you. That represents the galactic star confederations that they are a part of. Because the governments on this earthly plane are not controlled by just men in suit and tie. It's not. I don't want to get too deep in it, but it's interdimensional. And they show us all the time. Like when you look at Star Trek, when you look at Star Wars, that's what's really taking place. Whether y'all believe it or not, Area 51, those places exist. They have really captured down alien ships. They have really captured alien creatures. They have visited us, and some of them are amongst us even now as I speak. They can shape shift. They can take different form. Like I said, these organic portals themselves, they belong to these people. Somebody had left an interesting comment today, and I said I was going to touch on it. They had brought something up about reptilians being the real enemy and not the OPs. And I didn't, argue with the brother or whatever. I just told him that, you know what, you bring up an interesting point. And I would like to say that when it comes to these religions, you got to understand something. There is only one evil and one good. I'm going to say that again. There's only one evil and one good. Okay? Now what that